I think we are live. I'll just
Yes,
एक बार check.
I guess there's some lag, but yeah.
Looking for a doctor near you? Get
That's
instant
some ad.
appointment confirmation with doctor.
Guys, ad देखो पूरा. That's how we earn money.
Revenue.
Now that's ad.
Are we audible? Are we audible? Yes, we are audible. Yeah.
I think we
Hello.
are.
Hey guys. Hi. Hi.
Yes, we are.
Welcome to the stream.
Hi.
I guess
Yeah.
there's some lag.
देखो पूरा. Yeah.
Looking for a doctor near you? Get instant appointment confirmation with doctor.
एक second. Someone's stream is on. देखो पूरा. अच्छा नहीं मेरा. Sorry. Yeah. हाँ. Great. Yeah. Hi guys. Hi.
Hi.
Everyone. Hi everyone.
Hi, Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today is Mani Ratnam's birthday, Mani sir's birthday, and we decided let's just chat about him and everything amazing that he's done. So with me are two esteemed gentlemen with whom I have had the pleasure of working, and they are certified experts in the field of Mani Ratnam's filmography. So I have Srini with me.
Hey,
Yeah. Srini, tell something about yourself in connection
nice.
to Mani Ratnam.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
Yes.
I hope everybody who's watching this stream, they're safe, they're in their homes. The household in which I grew up, when I was a kid, I grew up in Chennai, and the household in which I grew up, I had no choice but to like Mani Ratnam.
Right.
In fact, I imagine technically the first Mani Ratnam film I saw was Nayakan, and it released 2 years ago. And I was taken to the theater to watch that film. And it can't get a 2-year-old being taken to watch a film like Nayakan. I mean, that's where it all started. And the first full Mani Ratnam film that I saw was Anjali. I would have been, 4 by then. But I'm told till date that I cried and cried and cried buckets, and my dad had to carry me home and console me all the way. So for me, it all started there, and since then it has just continued. So like I said, I had no choice but to be a great admirer of Mani sir, as we all call him. Yeah. So that's that.
Great. And we also have Jay with us. Jay is a filmmaker and he's studying filmmaking, which I was asking him about. So yeah, Jay, tell us something about yourself and your connection with Mani sir.
Just like Shrini, I'm from a Tamil background, so Mani Ratnam films are a kind of a staple in any Tamil person's filmography. But my introduction was strangely not through his films, but rather the music in his films. Like I kind of grew up listening to the A.R. Rahman Mani Ratnam cassettes.
Right.
And then I watched some of those films, and then just started off all the revisiting the films in the past. So I kind of started my trajectory like backwards.
Right.
Like I watched Roja and Bombay and Dil Se, and then I went back to Nayagan and again Chalchitra. So it's like a ulta, but again, grateful to have seen all of this stuff. It's great.
Right. Yeah. So now everyone has mentioned their connection, so it's only fair that I also talk about my connection. So my connection is slightly before my birth. Apparently, my parents went to watch Dil Se, and as a result of which I was born. This is their version of the story. But I was born in December. Dil Se came out, I think, in July or August. So like the timeline doesn't match, but I'd like to believe I was born because of Mani. So,
it's interesting. It's interesting that you say that, because I have a small anecdote here. Like HINDOL mentioned, all of us at a point in time about 4 years back were employed at the same place. And out there, what was really funny was I got to know that some of the people working there are pre Dil Se and post Dil Se. So for me, that was a very how do I put this? It was a very weird thing to know that there were kids around who were post Dil Se. So that always stuck with me. So whenever I read about Dil Se or watch Dil Se, I kind of go back to that those days.
On that note, I'll request everyone who's watching, please like the stream, because the more you like the stream, the more the algorithm will recommend it to people, and that's how we do our things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll just quickly jump into my first question. So I was wondering a lot about Indian filmmakers and like how long they've been relevant for. And Mani Ratnam started in the early 80s. He started in 1981 and now it's 2021, exactly 40 years. And he's still relevant. Whether his films are working or not working, that's an entirely different issue. But every time a movie comes out, people are still excited. So, do you guys think he's still relevant, or do you find that he has like he's past his prime? What is your take on this?
Srini, you
You
wanna
want to
go?
go for it?
No, you go first. You go.
Sure.
Seniority.
See, it's not a compliment anymore. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. We will take the pre. They'll say take
I,
the.
I am told that I belong to the boomer generation. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, I digress. No, to me, Mani Ratnam, it's absolutely true. How many directors from the 80s do we still? I mean, forget being relevant. How many of them have continued to make films today?
Hmm.
I mean, you could talk of a Subhash Ghai who was at the peak of his filmmaking career. It was called The Showman around that time. You
Yeah.
could talk about maybe a Rajesh Roshan. You
Hmm.
could talk about Mr. Balachandar. Of course, he's no more with
Hmm.
us today. But the great directors of the 80s, not only are they not relevant, but they've stopped making films
Yeah.
completely. Whereas here is a person who is still finding a place in the modern uh, culture or the modern history or the post 2000s of cinema and still continues to be relevant for all the right reasons. I mean,
Hmm.
like you said, the films might not work for
Hmm.
you or for me, uh, but there are a lot of things that we can go back to and appreciate and
Right.
enjoy. It could be a song, it could be the way he shoots his songs, right?
Hmm.
Or it could be the way the whole screenplay sort of works out. I mean, the way Roja works is legendary from a screenplay perspective,
Hmm.
right? So there are so many aspects to filmmaking about Mani sir's filmmaking that are so relevant and so fresh even today. I was just this morning because it's his birthday. I was revisiting Rangan's interview
Hmm.
with Mani, and one of the people say that see, he experimented with flash cuts in Roja.
Hmm.
But then a couple of years later, he experimented with jump cuts. And as time moved on, he stopped doing that and caught on to something that's more relevant and something that's more enjoyable by all
Yeah.
of us today. Right. So
Hmm.
that these are smaller facets of his filmmaking that I feel has uh, he is an evergreen filmmaker. I still don't think that he's past his prime.
Hmm.
Yes, the last couple of films have not worked for me personally.
Hmm.
I feel bad when I say that. I mean, I feel guilty when I say that. But yeah, I still feel we still have
Hmm.
he still has a lot of gas left in the tank. That's what I feel.
Right. And yeah, speaking of still being relevant, we just realized before the call that the three of us have ended up color coding.
Yeah.
And if you realize in Yuva, these were the three colors that were used: red, green, and blue. So by that logic, Jay is Madhavan or Abhishek Bachchan's track in Hindi. I'm Vivek Oberoi. That's a weird sentence to say. Yeah, I'm representing Vivek Oberoi
You
or
can Siddharth also.
yeah, Siddharth's track, and Shini is representing Surya or Ajay Devgan's track. So yeah,
Like,
yeah. So Jay is going to jail by the end of this,
Yes.
right? Yeah. The first and last same with us. So yeah. So Jay, what do you think? Do you think he's past his prime, or is he still relevant?
I will agree with Srini's point where he said, there are very few filmmakers in India, let alone the world, who have like continuously made films for 40 years since the 80s.
Right.
Like you can hardly count them
Hmm.
in India, even in and abroad. And I agree with most of the points that Shirini said. And I think the thing that makes Maniratnam really special that he inspired a league of filmmakers in the 90s,
Hmm.
inspired a league of filmmakers in the 2000s, and he has also inspired a league of filmmakers in the 2010s.
Yeah.
Like every decade has a group of people who have grown up watching Maniratnam's films. Like Maniratnam said in one of his interviews that he grew up watching K. Balachandra's films, Sir's
Hmm.
films, Guru Dutt's films.
Yeah.
And in the same way, there have been generations and generations of filmmakers and writers and aspiring and just film lovers who have grown up literally watching Maniratnam's films from the 80s, 90s,
Hmm.
and the current date. Yes, also for me, the last few films by Maniratnam haven't really worked,
Hmm.
but as Srini rightly said, there's no doubt that that man has like enough stuff left in him to give
Hmm.
us more amazing films. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage in his career, he is attempting a period epic, which is his
Epic.
next
Yeah.
film, and I'm sure it's going to be like it will not be anything like the Bahubalis and the kind of period films that are being made. It will have something distinctive
Yes,
about
because
it.
the novel which is based on Ponniyin Selvan,
Yeah.
it's a like really complicated novel. It's like
Hmm.
the Dune of
Right.
Tamil novels.
Right.
It's
Right.
a very difficult novel to kind of adapt.
Hmm.
Like there was
Yeah,
a, I think
that
there
too
was a
into a feature film.
exactly there is I think there was a TV series that was made in the late 90s. I think if I'm not
Hmm.
wrong.
The lesser we talk about it, the better.
Yeah, and there have been multiple attempts made by a lot of filmmakers over the decades of Tamil cinema to kind of make Ponniyin Selvan as a feature. But even Maniratnam attempted it a few
Hmm.
times before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an amazing thing that at this stage of his career he's going for an all-out epic period film,
Yeah.
Right.
and it's really it will be really interesting to look forward to.
Hmm. And I was also thinking that so Santosh Sivan has worked with Maniratnam before in Dil Se. He's worked in Iruvar, he's done Talapati, and then
Dalapati.
in 2001 he's doing Ashoka, where he has to do that entire war sequence and everything. And for some reason, I don't know why, probably it's just the baggage of the films that he's done, but I could sense like this is a Maniratnam scene. This is taken from this place. This is probably inspired from that. Like I'm not taking credit away from him. Like it's obviously a great thing
Of course.
that obviously the people you collaborate with leave some imprint onto you.
True.
But
Like,
yeah, so which brings me to my next question. So he has worked with a bunch of cinematographers through his career, and yet it's almost like he is cinematographer proof. Like he can work with anyone and they'll still up their game. Like it doesn't have to be that only Santosh Sivan can deliver great results with him. So one who is which is your favorite collaboration from a DOP and Maniratnam, and second, what is it that makes cinematographer more like step up their game in a Maniratnam film?
Favorite collaboration is a very, very tough one. Very, very tough one. But one of the lesser spoken about collaborations is with Mr. Madhu Ambat. He is the one who shot Anjali.
Right.
Generally, it gets buried under PC Sriram's brilliance,
Hmm.
or Santosh Sivan's brilliance, or for that matter, even Rajiv Ben, or Ravi K. Chandran for as recent as Carter Will Die.
Yeah.
But the way Madhu Ambat captured that house or that society, that it's as if the society or the campus, we call it, had a life. It was a distinct character in the film. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't know if you remember, there are scenes within the building where people all come up, converge on the staircases, and they all talk. So the camera is either from the bottom looking up or from the top looking down, and you have people from various homes talking.
Hmm.
Now that sort of choreography is even till date. I mean, forget 1990. You don't get to see such shots. Such shots, that scenes that are choreographed in that fashion and manner. Of course, if you were to talk about his other films. I mean, this whole stream could be about the way he films or the way he shoots. Funny that Ravanan doesn't get spoken
Yeah.
about as much as his other films. I mean, it had two cinematographers of great
Yeah.
repute. I believe it was Ravi K. Chandran and
Ravi K. Chandra
Santosh
and
Sivan
Santosh
and
Sivan.
V Manikandan. If I'm
Yeah.
not
V.
wrong.
Manikandan, of
Hmm.
course. The scenes were so brilliant. Mind you, Hindol, of this, we're talking about one single film,
Hmm.
and you can't really make out who has shot which
Who's done
portion of
what?
the
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
There can't be a bigger tribute or a testimony to the fact that here's a master craftsman at work. I mean, forget Ravi K. Varman capturing Carter Valley very differently than Santosh Sivan
Hmm.
capturing Dil Se. right? And of course, these are two different cinematographers with two completely different sense of aesthetic and color palettes, etc. But to me, Ravanan has a very distinct. It's etched in my memory because you really can't say when if Santosh Shivik shot this particular scene or Manikandan shot it. I mean, it's brilliant. Jay, I would love to know your favorite combination. I mean, why should I be put into this? I mean, why?
No, now that the subject of Ravanan has come, I just want to add one point. So in
Yeah.
Ravanan, the adaptation is whenever there is a character from the Ramayana introduced, there is a metaphorical entry of the character into the story. There's also a literal entry of the character. Like
Yes.
when the Hanuman character comes in, he literally comes down from the trees, and at a point when the police is completely gone. And then again for the Shutnaka character. So I like the subversions that he had done for those things as well. So that was pretty interesting. And yeah, definitely Ravanan doesn't get the due that. That's an unpopular opinion. I like the Hindi version more than the Tamil version.
One of the few people who's going to say that. I'm pretty sure.
That is indeed an unpopular opinion. I must say that.
Yeah.
Right.
I think because I'm studying films nowadays, and it's very important that you mentioned, right? Like Maniratnam has collaborated with some of the best cinematographers of the country, and still he manages to retain his directorial style, or his, if you see a frame, this is a Maniratnam
Yeah.
film, and that's a very difficult thing to do. Like very few filmmakers actually manage to get that their directorial stamp all over the films, no matter whichever technicians they work with. And but for me, I'm going to go with the popular and the much more stylistic Talapati shot by Santosh Sivan, because I think that's one of the first films which I saw for a very different reason. I saw it a very different Rajnikant, as opposed to the usual Rajnikant films I'd seen before that.
Yeah.
I actually entered the film like as though it's a Rajnikant film, but then I realized it's much more than Rajnikant, and it's a brilliant. I think one of the best. If someone wants to know how a director and a cinematographer should collaborate, I think Talapati is one of the best case studies to look at.
Yeah.
Every
I'll
shot.
tell you-
Yeah.
I'll tell you something very interesting about Talapati is that you have at one end of the spectrum, you have a Rajinikanth, who's not a very, put it mildly, a very fair person in terms of complexion. And the other end of the spectrum, you have a Mammootty. Right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about 1989, where the Reds and the Canons and the black magic cameras didn't exist.
Yeah.
Here is a cinematographer who has to light the scene that has two people at the opposite ends of the spectrum. One guy is fair as the moon and the other guy is dark as the night.
Yeah.
And yet you get to see flashes of brilliance. And this was not even the era of post mein dekhlenge. Right?
Yeah.
So brilliantly shot sequences, brilliant use of light. It's as if so it's a
Like
treasure
I
trove.
can't imagine a very emotional scene, such an emotional when Shobana's character comes to Rajnikant's character, and she calls off the relationship, and there is this turn, and Rajnikant's face is almost not even seen, and there is the sunlight. Which director and which cinematographer have the guts to shoot a mega superstar on a silhouette shot and obscure his face entirely, and still retain enough light to show the expression on the character's face? I think that shot is one of the most iconic shots in my opinion in that film.
Also, it's very metaphorical, right? He was the son of Karna,
Exactly.
the son, the son of sun god, son of Karna.
Also on that theme, that now that like all of us have spent time on sets and we know what is the general environment, that you have to just get things done. And here are two people who have decided that we are going to involve the sun as a character in our film, and we will light our scenes in a way that the sun is always present, which means that they have had to wait entire days for sure to get that perfect lighting, and then everyone has to be on cue. So it doesn't come from just the fact that हाँ बना लेंगे. There has to be like something
The amount of
very
planning and the thinking, the pre-production, when they must have sat down and done the short breakdown or storyboarding or whatever it is, the amount of thought that must have gone into it.
and it is not
Amazing.
a time when मतलब real वाला time था, like It's not that ki thoma pe ab shoot kar lo sky and then you replace the sky
Yeah.
Yeah,
into
shot on
whatever
film
you
stock.
want. Yeah.
It makes it 10
Yeah.
times more difficult.
Yeah.
You have to get your lights correct. You have to get,
Hmm.
and the lighting is not just for stylistic purposes. It as Srini said,
Yeah.
son of Karna, the Mahabharata references,
Hmm.
everything just
It's so
falls right
loaded. Yeah.
into place. It's in the script. It's as if the cinematography and the lighting is built into the script, and I think
Yeah.
therein lies the genius of Mani Ratnam, and that I think that's the only way he's able to extract the best and whatever he wants from any
Yeah.
technician he has ever worked with,
Yeah.
because he has his
Agree.
vision so clear. There is never a communication gap between the crew.
And even in the new films like this one Carter Day, you can't say that it's a badly shot film. It's one of the best looking films
Oh,
from that
Definitely.
year easily. And
definitely.
especially at this age, they're still involving nature. Like nature always has an important part in any Mani Ratnam film. Be it the whole cyclone, this thing in Karnatal, Muttamattal, and in Guru.
Right.
Guru also has very varied. Yeah, we'll come to Guru as well. Guru, I think, is a film that doesn't get the due that it should.
No, but one sec, while we are on cinematography,
Yeah,
the one thing that I like about Guru is the fact that you will realize, see, this is also about how do you tell a story through cinematography, right? How does the camera, how is the story told through the lens? Which is, if you look at the first half of Guru, the camera movements are so agile.
hmm.
To signify that here is a guy who is extremely quick, who
Yeah,
is extremely young, and as the film progresses, you realize that the frames are a lot slower,
hmm.
they're a lot more stoic. Towards the end of the film, when Bachchan, Junior Bachchan has aged, the
Hmm.
camera literally doesn't move. Whereas you look at the first half of the film, it's almost a handheld feel. There's a lot of steady cam shots. You feel the energy. You feel that okay, here's a guy who can go out there and get it. And these are, I mean, come to think about it, how many cinematographers put in such efforts into telling the story not only at a script level but also at a very subliminal level
Yeah.
through music or through cinematography, etc. So Guru is also another fantastic piece. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have one shot in Guru, which is my favorite thing. As you said, the camera becomes slower, and this is the point where he's gone to that rally where everyone is, saying कि तुमने पैसा डुबा दिया, ये कर दिया,
But
वो कर दिया. It's raining, and they're in the car, and in the car it's very slow. It's like not even slow motion. It's like somewhere in between, and they're in the car, and everyone is just on the windows, on the windows. Then they go to their old house, and they're on the swing, and the swing is moving with the camera, and then he gets
yeah,
his paralytic
Yeah.
attack. That entire sequence, I've just watched that sequence so many times. It's really well done.
Happens to be one of our favorite scenes as well. So
Yeah,
that makes it the three of us.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot what we were talking about.
we're talking cinematographer
Yeah, yeah,
collaborations.
cinematography. Yeah, so we've completed that. I'll just quickly read chat name. A lot of people are saying
Yeah.
things. Would you be reviewing Mani's Tamil films or no? We'll be reviewing and not reviewing. Like we'll be talking about everything
Stop.
because if he hasn't limited himself to one language, why should
Why should-
he? Yeah. A hot take: Ravanan was Mani's second best movie after Karnatil Muthan. Thoughts, opinions.
That's certainly a post they'll say.
Yeah,
Kid
of course they'll
speaking.
say opinion. Yeah. Yeah, we'll come to his older work as well because
Sure.
yeah, I think let's just talk about it. So I haven't seen a lot of his pre-monoragam things, and that's primarily because A, there are no good quality
Yeah,
prints, and second, barely any prints are available with subtitles.
subtitles.
So if you had to
Right.
choose just one film from his pre-monoragam era that people should see to realize that okay, it was happening from the beginning. So which film would that be?
I would go with Pagal Nilavu,
Right.
the one that has Revati
Hmm.
and Murali, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, Murali
Hmm.
is
No, Pagal
fantastic.
Nilu. Yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Pagal Nilavu was it, right?
yeah,
It was
Pagal
Pagal
Nilu is
Nilavu.
Murali.
Pagal Nilavu is Murali.
Idaya
So,
Kovil is Mohan.
Hmm.
Mohan, that's right. So Pagal Nilavu would be my pick before Maunaragam, purely for the fact that it's not a great uh, film per se, but the kind of performances that he is able to extract out of a movie, it's fabulous. And for the time, of course, these films, see, most films don't age well. Of course, we're talking about a film that's almost 40 years old now.
Hmm.
But the way the characters play out, the way the scenes play out between two characters, that's still worthy of taking notes, is what I feel. Jay, what do
Yeah.
you think? Which is
Uh,
favorite?
I think I'll go with Idaya Kovil because you've said Pagal Nilugu. I like Idaya Kovil for a multitude of reasons, but one of them being the soundtrack, which I'm pretty sure the Hindol is going to bring in
Yeah.
after a while.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is absolutely fabulous, and
Yeah.
I'll just let it that, or else we'll just move into the next topic
Uh-huh.
of music
Yeah.
by default.
Yeah. The music is coming in thoda late because I have a
Yes.
polarizing opinion. जहाँ पे
Okay.
बहुत
Okay.
चीजें पढ़ने वाले हैं. So
I dread going there, so I don't want to be put in a
But yeah,
spot.
yeah.
Idaya Kovil again, just as Shirley said, hasn't really aged well. The
Yeah.
sensibilities, the socio-political thing, everything has changed.
Mm.
But again, for the performances
Mm.
and what, as much as I have read about the making of the film, there was a lot of so-called producer pressure on the film. And in spite of that, he kind of managed to extract performances he wanted, he got the soundtrack he wanted. Maybe not the final output wanted, as apparently talked about in an interview as well, that it was not the output he really wanted. But the film was success, which kind of paved the way for Maunaragam, after which he has just been doing whatever he used to do. So
Interesting you talk about producer pressure as well because another interesting thing about him is that he has produced most of his films after a point.
yeah,
Like I think from Nayakan and like obviously his brother was producing for him, but after a point he was all doing it on his own. So probably it could have been due to trying to
yeah,
ensure that everything is the way I want
he
it.
wants it to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Vinayak is saying, hello, hey, Vinayak is here. Vinayak is saying, I watched Ravan when I was very young and I remember watching the Baine song and absolutely amazed by the cinematography. After that, my
I
dad
believe this
introduced me to
audio
music.
lag.
Is there that, yeah?
Uh, we
I'll
can
just
hear it.
read what else is happening. Vellai Pukul from Kannathan Muttamutal is one of the best songs from Yara. Yes, agreed. Unpopular opinion, I'd like Chekka Chivantavanam. A lot of people in chat have liked that movie. I kind of liked it. Like I like the things that he was trying to attempt. Probably the sum total didn't come through, but it was interesting. Did you guys like it? What was your opinion?
Chekka Chivandavanam for me, as you said, no, it didn't come out as a whole. There are
Hmm.
sequences and there are bits and pieces. Is she really frozen?
Yeah, I think he's
There's some audio lag at my end,
yeah.
I guess.
Okay, okay, cool.
Cool, cool, cool. Yeah.
Hold on.
So for me, Chekka Chivandavanam, like there are
Hmm.
some interesting sequences and
Hmm.
bits and pieces, some set pieces work.
Yeah.
Oh, disconnect.
Yeah, he'll just join us, I guess.
Uh, but as a whole, the film didn't
Hmm.
really click for me. But I like the way how he used Vijay Sethupathiy's character in the film. That
Hmm.
uh, and yeah, I don't know. The plot seemed very wafer thin and stretched to a point where it, it could have been easily solved. But again,
Hmm.
I guess uh, it didn't come as a whole film for
Yeah.
me. But yeah, it's. I'm not going to say much. I don't want to diss the film or anything. If
Cool.
people liked it, it's their
Hmm.
own
Yeah.
opinion. For me, it
I
didn't really
somehow
come
missed
through.
the conversation. So what are we talking about?
Yeah.
So
So
sorry.
Chekka
Chekka
Chivandavanam,
Chivandavanam,
gay or
your
nay?
thoughts? I said it
Okay.
didn't come as a sum total for me. Like there are some interesting bits and pieces, but didn't come to this
Very
point.
few, very few, far and in between. But yeah, the probably the only thing that works for me much later after I saw the film was the
Hmm.
fact that it was very interesting. The way he used music
Hmm.
in the film was very, very interesting. I mean, you generally go into a Maniratnam film expecting the music to be a certain way. I
Hmm.
mean, you go in saying that, okay, he's going to shoot the song a certain way, whether it's Barsore Megha or
Hmm.
Achaiya Me in Alai Payude or, Satragire in Dil Se, or I could just go on, right? But Chakachavandavanam very weirdly didn't have a full musical piece at all.
Hmm.
In fact, the soundtrack did have full-blown songs, but somehow in the film it was used in a very
Quite a
interesting
yeah.
way. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So that was an interesting take
Hmm.
for me, but otherwise as a film, it somehow, yeah, I have to agree with what Jay says. It didn't work.
strangely, that was the exact thing that didn't work for me in the film because I don't know, probably because you're used to listening to the album in a certain way and you've spent time with the song, so
Exactly.
you have a mental image and okay, this is
Right.
how maybe the track will come along. This is probably how. I think Maniratnam is the only director with whom once you listen to the album, you try and imagine ki okay, this is how the song is
ये
going to
गाना
look
कैसे यूज होगा
in the film. So that was interesting. Probably it was the baggage
I
that
think for
I
me,
came with.
I saw this kind of coming from a long way. Like I felt that in OK Kanmani, the
Hmm.
Kara Takara song. When I
Hmm.
heard on the album, I was like, I don't know where is this going to fit in the
The background
narrative,
score.
and they just put it in the title credits. I was like,
Yeah,
ha, theek hai. Now it makes sense. So
yeah.
it's the equivalent of a Bollywood movie taking an item song and putting it in the end credits
Hmm.
because जगह नहीं है fit करने को. So I think I felt that because it didn't really fit, and the same for the songs in
Hmm.
Chekachivandavanu. Songs are standalone. The songs are really great,
Hmm.
but it doesn't felt like shoehorned in the narrative type of
Right.
movie.
Ramya Akhileshwar says, Anjali, how could he get kids to act like that? Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
Yeah.
a very interesting point that she's brought up that kids in Mani Ratnam films, and this is something I've observed also with Satyajit Ray, that in his films, the kids always stand out. Like, I don't know how they do it, but it's something that to always look forward to. So, what do you think? Like, what is his process probably?
I quite frankly don't have an answer to that question
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
how could you, right? I mean,
Hmm.
when even now, Anjali is not an easy watch for me. I mean, I wish I could revisit the film,
Hmm.
make notes, and come back with an answer. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, Anjali isn't the sort of film that you
You can watch
revisit
again. Yeah.
and come out unscathed, right? So, but forget Anjali for that matter. Take Karnatal Muttamita,
Yeah.
right? And the way he gets that kid to act. I mean, when Madhavan and his wife Simran they break the news to her that she's an adopted kid and she's not a kid, the way the child reacts, it's almost how do I say I don't know. It's just a sheer stroke of genius, is what I would
Hmm.
say. Or even that small scene in Nayagan where the kid walks up to
Hmm.
Venu Nayagan and asks, "Nega nallagana
Nagara
kettavara?
Keta.
Are you a good man or a bad man?" I mean, I am at a loss of words to really describe that phenomenon as well as
Hmm.
it's fabulous. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
yeah,
in a kind of an industry or in a kind of a work environment where it's so difficult to even get the right emotions out of seasoned actors and
Hmm.
adults. It's really a testament to the genius where he's able to extract such amazing and distinct performances. Like in Anjali, it's not like we are not looking at the crowd of kids as a crowd of kids. They're not, but these bache has not just made them
true.
stand and ha chalo abhi tali bajao,
Hmm.
smile karo, now cry. Each kid actually stands out. Each kid is
Hmm.
kind of has an arc. Like there's this one guy who leads the bullying, and then he's the first one to tone down. And then
Hmm.
there is one guy who's always on the lookout for the couple. Every kid has a kind of a role in the film, and
Hmm.
I think that's the way he directs, not just kids and even the seasoned actors, the grown-ups.
Hmm.
That he manages to get them into the world
Hmm.
and makes it seem like हाँ यही है there's nothing else
This
going
is
to
how
do.
it's done.
Yeah, it's all it's done. If I knew that, that would be great. But
Yeah, speaking of seasoned actors, someone mentioned Iruvar in the channel. I can't find the message. But
yeah,
okay, so I have this belief that in Iruvar, Mohanlal outshone Prakash Raj, is what I feel. So, what is your take? Do you think Prakash Raj was more into his character or was it Mohanlal? Because for me, I can't look at anyone else when Mohanlal is in the film.
I'll agree. Like Mohanlal is really uh,
Damn it, you're supposed to
It's
say
even
not
though
something.
it's
easy for.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jay, continue.
yeah,
Yeah.
though it's a two
Mm,
character story. There is no kind of say protagonist kind of
yeah.
a character, but it's clearly that Mohanlal is in the spotlight for most of the film. Like he gets the more
Mm,
what do you say, so-called entertaining
mm,
sections of the film,
yeah.
while Prakash Raj is
Yeah.
what an offer. Should we wait for him?
Yeah, I think let's continue.
Okay, cool.
Then he'll join back. Yeah.
But I don't want to compare each of them. Both are
You
really
have to.
amazing.
You are at gunpoint. You have to. You have
I
to
have to
decide.
okay at
Yeah.
gunpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with I'll go with Mohanlal, obviously, but
You can stay in this team.
I can stay in the stream,
Yeah.
or else I would have been kicked out.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jay has chosen Prakash Raj. No, Jay has chosen
Mohanlal.
Mohanlal out of the two. So who do you think was better? And you can't give a diplomatic answer. You have to choose.
Okay, I tried it. Still
Yeah.
doesn't work.
You have to choose.
Well, for me, I'm a huge Mohanlal fanboy,
Hmm.
if I could call it that. So I mean, maybe I come from a very different era
Hmm.
where for me, there can't be two better actors than Mohanlal and Kamal Hassan, right? I mean,
Hmm.
probably only two actors who I still believe are the finest actors in our country. So it's really not tough for Mohanlal to outshine anybody else, maybe barring Kamal Hassan. So
Hmm.
yeah, so for me it was Mohanlal all the way. There's this one scene that I still remember, the scene where he puts his hand.
Yeah.
I mean, that gives you goosebumps.
Hmm.
How can an actor carry off something so subtle in such an effective way?
Any mic?
Mike.
I mean,
No.
there seems to be some issue.
There's something of.
Yeah,
Huh. Just a second. I'll just quickly. Yeah, I'm just replying to Tayyab. Tayyab is here. Hello, hey, hi Tayyab. Tayyab is one of our creators, and he has very interesting takes on science. So yeah. Snow has said it's his birthday today. Yeah, which is why this stream
Which
is
is why we are
happening.
doing this.
Yeah, which is why the stream is happening. So yes, no, thank you. And Tarun said I read the title as talking with Mani Ratnam. I wish we could talk.
Yeah, we wish.
For now, you'll have to contend with us and this book. This is Bharadwaj
Yes,
Rangan's
must
book.
read.
Yeah, must read, and it's like a film school in itself.
Yes.
We have a super chat. Shreyas, thank you, Shreyas. Shreyas has given us a super chat. He's asked,
okay.
your
Yes.
favorite Mani Ratnam movie. I feel it's impossible to choose one film from his filmography, but one that touched you guys. Okay, I have my answer. You guys, start.
Srini, you want to go first? A film that touched
It's a tough, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I can't go with one.
You have to. You are at gunpoint. You have to pick one.
you. And what is this gunpoint? Huh?
See,
Can I?
this is the क्या कहते हैं, social media. You have to keep up with the hot takes. This is
Yes.
how you make hot takes. Yeah.
For me, can I say three films
Two.
or
You
story?
are allowed two.
Okay.
I love to.
Yeah.
It's still a tough one. I would say Talapati
Hmm.
and Iruvar.
Ganpati and Niruvar, great choices. Jay, which ones are yours?
Nayagan and Iruvar.
Okay. Yeah. You guys have mentioned Niruvar, so I won't mention Niruvar. For me,
Yes.
it's Guru. I don't know why, but a lot of people don't like, including Mr. Bharadwaj Rangan, they don't like Guru and Dalapati. But those are the two films that I like, and obviously Dulce, because without Dulce I would not exist. So yeah, Dulce should get that credit. And yeah, just see if anything else is up. Yeah, Chekka Sivantamanam we discussed. Gayam and Tiruda, RGV and Maniratnam collaboration. Great movies. Yeah, this was a very interesting phase where these three guys collaborated. Of course, only two made films out of it: Maniratnam, Shekhar Kapoor, and RGV.
Arjun.
Yeah, so it just feels very, like in hindsight, it feels appropriate that obviously three visionary people came together. But so what was your reaction when you watched Tiruda? Because it is one of his least like liked
I would
appreciated
say
films.
even least known films, in my
It's
Hmm.
opinion.
known actually.
A lot of people don't even
That,
know Tiruda. If they know
Yeah.
Tiruda, they're like, "Achha, Mani Ratnam film." Oh, I didn't
Hmm.
know that.
and the soundtrack kind of towered over the film.
The
Yeah.
film
You know,
itself.
till date, I don't know if there is a more varied soundtrack of Rahman. Of course, Yua comes close purely in terms of the
Genre blending.
individuality of each song that it brings in.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe there's a jazz track, there's an Indian track, there's a nice romantic track, there's a disco track, etc. But yeah, then again, I digress. But I kind of forgot what we were talking about. What
RGB
was the
Malaysia
question?
RGB
collab.
and Thiruda Durga.
Yes, I for one felt that it was a fun ride. I recently revisited that film
Hmm.
uh, because see, RGB gets that road movie genre right. Right,
Yeah.
somehow it's his zone, is what you feel. That coupled with the idiosyncrasies of this pure Tamil
Hmm.
uh, characters and
Hmm.
a very money, typical South Indian money milieu, song milieu, really gelled well together to give us that fantastic film. And of course, the music is mind blowing. I only wish if Money would have done more of such collaborations,
Hmm.
purely in terms of writing.
Writing. Yeah.
Because writing, right? Because sometimes I feel it gets too overwhelming for him as a writer. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, but that apart, Tiruda Tiruda happens to be one of those
Hmm.
films that I keep revisiting often, if not the whole film, for purely for sake, because it's sheer joy. I love that film.
I watched it last year in the first lockdown. So I watched Thiruda Durga first. Then
For
I
the first
watched
time,
yeah, for the first
was
time.
that your first film?
Yeah. And then I watched Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid because like obviously there are parallels and I kind of
References.
like both. And I think a lot of people give credit to Maniratnam that he does romance well, he does relationships well, but he's a good action director too. He has great action sequences throughout his career, but not many people, give him that credit. And Thiruda was that movie which kind of cemented it because almost 30 to 40% of the film is on that theme. And it's a heist movie, it's a comedy. The romance didn't work. I think that's where the film kind of, derails
Falter.
completely. But if it was just a comedy heist movie, probably it could have worked. Uh, Jay, what
See,
do
it
you?
still amazes me that because Tirada did at a time where he had just come out of something, what do you say, draining, emotionally draining
Hmm.
like Bombay.
Yeah.
And the
Wait, was it
ability
after
to,
Bombay or before? I think
That
it
is
was
a
after
before,
Roja.
after Roja is what I think.
Yeah.
after Roja, before Bombay, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
I think so.
Or
I
I
think
think
so. No, no, it was
so
certainly
basically
before
between
Bomb.
Huh, before
between
Certainly
Bombay.
these
before.
between these really emotionally draining and what do you
Hmm.
say
Right,
serious,
correct.
so-called serious and really tough films to make
Hmm.
and watch
Correct.
as well. The ability to switch to something so light-hearted and not just do naam ke vaste, but
Hmm.
actually put your heart and soul and do something you actually like doing. As I said, everyone
Correct.
sees Maniratnam as the drama, how he creates drama,
Hmm.
but they overlook the action part in it.
Hmm.
And I think he said in the Bharatwaj Rangan interview as well that that's how he liked watching films. Like
Hmm.
everyone likes watching action. They like watching something very thrilling and adventurous. So I think that he got a chance to do something with that with Tirada, and he leapt on that chance. Again, an overlooked film for a multitude of reasons, but a very fun film nevertheless.
And also I've noticed this especially with A.R. Rahman that when the film is very like surface level, for the lack of better word, that there's nothing happening as such in the plot. Like it's a very flimsy kind of a film. That's where his music kind of really goes into some places because he's not bound by the plot anymore. He can experiment a lot. There's this Priyadarshan movie, I think. There's Anil Kapoor in it. I forgot, I'm forgetting the name.
Virasat.
Virasat.
No, that is Anu Malik. And obviously Ilayaraja translated by Anu Malik. No,
Ah,
Kabhi Na Kabhi. Kabhi
Oops.
Na Kabhi has.
You might want to have a patch on the chat window right now because we are moving into dangerous territory. So,
No. Yeah, these are all people. They know Anu Malik. So yeah. I'm saying there's this movie called Kabhi Na Kabhi, which is Anu Malik, not Anil Kapoor, Jackie Shroff, and Pooja Bhatt. And the film story is
right.
nothing. Like I don't think the film is even watchable, but the songs are really something. Like it's one of those Rahman albums which doesn't get its due, like Tiruda Tiruda. So I think Rahman is freed once the film's plot has nothing to do with the
yeah,
album.
it was unfortunately the era where the music is not was not marketed separately,
It
so
it
to
was
say.
the main
It was
marketing.
Yeah, it was the only thing. But no, I'm saying it could not be differentiated from the. If the film flop, the music more or less naturally
Also died.
didn't
Yeah,
move to the
Yeah,
chartbusters or whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
that's
And that's
true.
why I think
That's
the
true.
failure of Tiroda is a lot of people slept over that album, have not heard to that album. Like
Yeah.
every song, I
Amit
think we're going.
Trivedi acknowledges it as his favorite
Yeah,
album. Like that really
I
Tirda
think
inspired
Tirda,
I think
right?
I think
Tirda
Rahman
Tirda.
has said in one of his interviews that he wants to remaster those songs
Hmm.
using
Right.
new technology, kind of make it sound fresh for today.
Yeah.
Right, right. And you know what, Kabina Kabhi, for me, the only reason it stays with me is because, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong here, but that's the only Rahman album with a Kumar Sanu track in it.
Yes. Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the
Okay.
only album. I think he just has one song. He's never
Yeah,
sung
which is
for anyone.
the which is not even an original song. It's Anjali Anjali from Duet.
Yeah,
It's the
true,
Hindi
true.
version
It's
of
the
Okay.
that.
Hindi
Yeah.
song.
Apparently, he wanted him to sing for Roja, but then Kumar Sanu was like, "Who the fuck is?" So he didn't go to Chennai, and then there was like this thing between them, so they eventually didn't work together. Which Kumar
I am
Sanu
so
has.
glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I don't want to be listening to a Roja Janeman version by Kumar Sanu. Roja Janeman. Thank you for
Yeah.
the memories. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Jibin writes Konjam Nilava song in Trivedi. Oh man.
Yeah,
That
beautiful.
in Veerapandi Kotele, Rasati, all of them.
Every song in the
Yeah,
whole album
Every song,
is
the Tirda Tirda title track actually,
yeah.
yes.
which comes as a lace
The
throughout the
character
film.
introduction of these
Yeah,
two.
Tirda
Yep.
Tirda.
Yeah,
It's beautiful, and not a lot many people talk about SPB's contribution to the film,
yeah,
and it's beautiful. I really liked him in that role.
Another showcase of how Mani Ratnam directs actors
yeah.
or non-actors
Non-actors. Yeah,
for a
Right,
movie.
right.
that's my mom's favorite movie. Thank you, Ritesh. Ji. And why no one's mentioning Roja? Yes, so Roja. So the thing is, we're trying to address films which mostly people not talk about or other more or less ignored ones, but we did just talk about Roja. So, like, obviously, you guys were around when the whole Ilayaraja to A.R. Rahman shift happened. So,
Oops,
yeah,
we're heading to
I
that
wasn't
territory.
there, but yeah, I know about it.
yeah, yeah. So, like, culturally, you guys are aware, like, or
Yeah,
like, what was the comparison and all of those things, right? So, tell me what it was like to, have been a part of those conversations because we just like for people like me who are post, they'll say we know Mani Ratnam from A.R. Rahman's
yeah, man.
soundtracks. We don't know much of the work that he's done with Ilayaraja and whose birthday also is today.
He's doing.
So
Yeah,
yeah, happy birthday,
Fabulous, isn't it?
Ilayaraja. Sorry.
Raja sir, happy birthday.
Yeah, if you are watching this stream, please like this. Yeah, yeah. So what was it like? What was the like? What were the expectations and what was it like being alive at that time?
I think Srini can answer. It was in the eye
Yeah,
of the storm, so-called
yeah, yeah.
storm.
I'm pained to answer this question because as much as I love listening to the Rahman era
Hmm,
tracks, so I still go back to the Ratnam Raja sir
hmm,
uh, soundtracks every day. I mean,
yeah,
it's like chicken soup for the soul sort
hmm,
of thing for me, right? Yeah. Because how many? Nine, 8 or 9 albums together.
From Anupallavi, Pallavi Anupallavi
From
se till
Anupam. So
Talapati.
that
yeah.
makes it more 10, 11.
Roughly 10 years also.
Yes, and that sort of a collaboration is. I mean, you can't really fathom how did that end or how did Rahman suddenly pick up things. But I will say this: I was a kid when it happened.
Hmm,
But even for me, when I heard Roja, I mean, it will be a stretch,
hmm,
and pardon me for exaggerating this a little bit. But even for me as a kid, Roja's soundtrack sounded fresh.
yeah.
Like now it's one of the most cliched lines
Hmm,
now in 2021 to say that Rahman came in like a fresh breeze and all that, but
yeah.
that was actually the thing when you listen to Chinna Chinna Asai, and especially the portion where Rahman comes in with the soul, even as a kid I was like, oh my god, what is this? I mean,
Hmm,
we didn't have great speakers, we didn't have great sound systems and all that, but we felt okay, this is something amazing. So, and then from there, they only gone from strength to strength, and then Bombay, and Bombay, didn't say it, whatnot. I mean, but if okay, for me, it's Rahman by the day and Raja by the night. So, if I were to listen to a soundtrack now, I would go back to say maybe a track from Nayagan or say maybe a track from Anurag.
Right.
Lila Veva happens to be just the apt song to play at what 11:30 at night. So uh,
Yeah.
I'm a purist in that sense, or for that matter, even tracks from Tadapati. They're so beautiful. And yeah. So I'm torn between both these eras. I don't know. Jay might have a different take altogether for purely for the fact that
I was
he came in
born in the
born in the
when
Rahman.
A.R. Rahman was on the rise. I was born, so
Mm.
I told like I grew up listening to Roja and
Yeah.
Bombay and these say cassettes,
Mm.
and I started watching Mani Ratnam films backwards. So so by the time I had reached Roja, I was like, okay, now then I looked up, oh, okay, Ilayaraja, okay, I didn't know Mani Ratnam collaborated with Ilayaraja,
Mm.
and it's kind of interesting because I literally grew up on A.R. Rahman soundtracks, and my mother, who's also a huge film buff, she's like a Raja purist.
Mm.
She's like Raja is the best. There's nobody else who can. I'm not saying Rahman. She says Rahman is not like I'm not saying he's bad or not, but Raja is Raja. There's a very popular what is it
Raja,
cliche dialogue
Raja,
in
Raja, Raja.
Raja Raja
Raja,
Da.
Raja, Da.
There's no comparison. She says, and again I will not compare because for me nostalgia and memory wise, Rahman has a very important role. But also from a pure film lover and a music listener kind of a thing, Raja soundtracks are absolutely brilliant in every way possible.
Okay, so I think
Yeah.
now it's time for my controversial
Yes,
opinion.
sir.
And this is okay. This the caveat is that see, I'm a post Dil Se kid, and most of the Ilayaraja tunes that are now a part of the Maniratnam phenomenon were most of us discovered it through movies like Pa and Chini Gum because that's where they came
They
into
use
the
those
yeah
tracks.
for our generation. So when you have grown up, accustomed to a way that the production quality of a sound in Maniratnam film will be a certain way, and then when you go back to Raja, for some reason it felt dated to me. And it's probably just the production aspect of it because I like songs like Sundari Karna Loruseri. Like the Talapati album, it works for me. I don't like the other ones. Like, not, I won't say don't like, I just feel that they haven't aged well, like Naigan and Monuragam and those ones. So, do you think it's just an age thing, generation thing, or is it just that the older audiences appreciated melody more than anything else?
No, I don't
I,
think so. Because I found because I think it also comes out because my idea of Raja Sir's music is not just limited to Mani Ratnam.
Hmm.
I have also listened to Raja Sir's music albums from films which are so-called not great also. But and because of my mother's influence of what her listening to a lot of Ilayaraja songs, I have kind of grown up with that. So for me, I cannot really make the kind of the distinction or the difference. कि ये पुराना है, ये नया है, the sound quality is better, the production quality. I can understand the current people, current generation can't kind of connect with it just because the production quality or the music sound quality, the texture is kind of different to what we hear today. You can actually hear the scratches of the vinyl on the
Yeah.
older soundtracks, whereas today it's like crystal clear production and you can hear every piece of the music
Yeah.
extremely clearly. I think that's the only fact. But I think if someone really likes to experiment and appreciate stuff, I think that it will never be a problem for them. Like the quality of a particular soundtrack or anything is going to kind of stop them with that.
Yeah.
and I believe there is one aspect of the Maniratnam Raja Sir combination that has an ace over Mani Sir and Rahman stuff, which is the BGM.
Mm.
Uh, Raja Sir is hands down the best background score composer, even till date, possibly. And
Yeah.
you can't have. And if you were to revisit Nayagan today,
Mm.
um, some scenes are purely because of Raja Sir's genius. Like when he goes to he doesn't know that he's going to his daughter's house. And when
Mm.
he hears that there's a baby in the house, it's the Tenpandi Chimaile sort of
Hmm.
starts playing. It's the instrument version. So that brings in so much of pathos to the scene. And of course, Kamal is brilliant in that scene. Or the scene where his son comes and says, Dad, I will do this for you. And then when he looks up at him, it's again that the track sort of comes in at the right time. So there's that. Or Anjali, even when when the kid dies, the way he has used music or not used music
Hmm.
is I mean, so treatment wise, let's take out the songs from the picture.
Hmm.
But if you look at the overall music,
Package. Yeah.
the way the music plays a key role in the film, right? So that I believe Rahman. I am a huge fan of Rahman. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Rahman. He's up there for me. But when it comes to BGM, especially in a Maniratnam film, Raja clearly goes.
Hmm.
Raja was streets ahead. Streets ahead.
Right, and this is one very interesting thing in Tamil cinema, which is probably due to Ilaiyaraaja's contribution, is that the concept of themes and in background score, that each character
Yes.
has a theme, there are motifs which keep recurring, which took a lot of time to come to Hindi cinema, because Hindi cinema, there were like, as a mainstream, it wasn't recognized. So I think credit where it's due, it's definitely due to him that that whole phenomenon has come about. So.
Absolutely, no doubt.
Mm, Vivian Matthew asked, have you guys liked Cuddle? I have only seen the songs. I tried watching the film, I couldn't finish it. Maybe I'll finish it someday. What do you guys think of Cuddle?
Rangan calls it a grown-up film.
Hmm.
I can't think of a similarly nice title for the film.
Yeah.
It didn't work for me. So conceptually, it might have been a great film. The whole
Hmm.
good versus evil. I
Hmm.
see where he was going with that, but
Hmm.
somehow the execution of it was pretty
Hmm.
fuddy-duddy. And for me, the leads just didn't work. I mean, there was no chemistry between the leads. In fact, it was Arjun and Arvind Sami's duel or clash or ideologies that really worked for me. But it was a very small part of the film, and it comes towards the end of the film. By the time you're bored, done, and dusted, it
Hmm.
didn't work for me.
Remember that Cuddle was the time when he was actively written off. That because Cuddle was coming right after Ravan. And, Ravan hadn't worked in the Hindi circuit, and the same time Cuddle was coming. And I remember Cuddle and Vishwarupam released like a week, very close to each other.
Very close.
And Cuddle was the time when everyone was like, "Yeah, this guy's done with. He can like, pack his bags." Then he comes back with "Okay, Kanmani," which again Shad Ali. I find Shad Ali's career very interesting, that he had a lot of interesting ideas like his original films, but again the whole Mani Ratnam baggage that came with him, that he did Satya and Okay Janu, somehow like didn't get him his due in a sense.
Yeah.
Just
For me,
talking
Monday or still looks better
yeah,
than both his film adaptations.
like the being the son of a famous father kind of a thing. Let's see what else is happening. Um, Gayam, yes. Have you guys seen Gayam? I've not seen Gayam. Well, what is Gayam about? Is it also a road movie or like what is it?
No, no, it's a proper masala pot order.
Yeah, your
Uh,
audio is.
Audio.
is it better? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gayam is this pot boiler masala
Mm-hmm.
uh, action romantic film. I think it's been a while since I saw it. I remember more
Mm-hmm.
than 25 years. It had Urmila Matondkar in the she was the lead, right?
It's an RGV film. Chances are she was there.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite. It's either Sri Devi or Urmila Matondkar.
Yeah, so yeah, it's an average film as well. It's a typical revenge saga. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, a guy action, thoda bahut romance, thoda bahut action, etc. But yeah, so I'm
Have you guys
certain
seen?
that it's
Yeah. Have you guys seen Dod? Ram Gopal Verma's Dod.
Yes.
What is your opinion? We're sorry we're digressing from Mahishna. I
I,
just
I
want to know.
quite liked it. I love that film. Unpopular opinion,
Hmm.
hugely unpopular opinion, but I love it.
Yeah,
I
I
like
like it too. The it's one of the best Parish Rawal performances by a mile. It's the funniest villain I've seen in any Hindi movie. Jai
And it had a
Janaki.
good soundtrack too.
Yeah, yeah.
A soundtrack, yeah. I was gonna say that. Like, the
Hmm.
soundtrack is. Like,
What
who
is
will
the
use, like, in the song where Urmila and Sanjay are dancing in the hills, who uses Yesudas's voice? Like, how do you do that?
yeah.
I was listening as
Or,
Asha
or,
Bhosle singing, "Oh Bhavere," I'm like, "हाँ ठीक है, okay, fine, good, good,
or
good,
for
good,
that
good."
matter, or for that matter, Hi Rama Ye Kya Hua?
Yeah.
Like the same actually film, who would have thought he's going to come up with a tune like that? But
Yeah.
we digress. Let's
Yes.
come back to this.
Yes. Yeah. We'll come back to Mani sir. So yeah, let's come to we can't not talk about Roja Bombay and we'll say the whole thing. So one very interesting observation I know someone had that post liberalization Mani Ratnam has been like the like I haven't seen in anyone else's work where India's history was being documented just like not through depiction of historical events but just through what was happening at the time and you can
Contemporary.
yeah, yeah you can judge what time period was going on just by looking at what the main guy's profession is and in Roja it's an IAS officer in Kannathan Muttamatal it's a writer in Dilse it's a radio jockey in OK Kanmani it's a game designer
Game
so
design.
yeah so it's almost like he's keeping up with the times but at the same time he's also reflecting what's happening around them. So, given all of this that he's coming with, do you think that he was just trying to, give his opinion on things that okay, terrorists also have like their, baggage that they're coming from, or in Bombay that peace is the solution. So, was he just trying to give his solution to a problem, or was he just reflecting what was happening? How do you guys view these three films?
I think it was more of a reflection of the times, right? Because
Hmm.
at the core of it, it's like the plot might be around the riots, but it's still at the core of it, it's about a husband and a wife from
Hmm.
two different religions coming together. Or from Roja again, it's a very passionately written love story. At the crux of
Hmm.
it, it's a wife who just for her husband. So yeah, so I think it's more of about the reflection of the times that we live in
Hmm.
uh, with a very distinct tadka of Maniratnam style of romance, which is typically, I mean, that's what these are all. See, that's one of the problems people have with Nolan, right? Like, for
Hmm.
instance, they say that he can make great showpieces, but when it comes to character uh,
Hmm.
between two people, when it comes to interaction of two
Yeah.
leads in the film, it fizzles out.
Hmm.
Whereas Maniratnam is a master at that. So I remember Karthik Subaraj talking about the fact that Maniratnam achieved an astonishing feat when he made Kannathal Muttamittal, which is a commentary about war without making a war film.
Yeah.
Right? It's a film about war. It's a film about a war ravaged, war torn nation, or two nations coming to terms with it. But yet the story is about a mother and a daughter, a father and a daughter, or an adopted kid, etc. So that's in that sort of a backdrop. So yes, it's still very personal films, personal relationships set in contemporary times. Is my take of how Maniratnam approached these films.
Yeah. And if I have to add to that, I don't think it's a gimmick either. Like it's not
Mhm.
कि वो just to show कि हम topical content बना रहे हैं, we just war डाल देते
Keywords.
हैं या हाँ
Keywords डाल
keywords डाल देते हैं. It's not even like that. Like there is a reason why Bombay could not have been made in any other part of the country because no
True.
other part was as badly hit by the riots or came
The
together
setting of
in
the
this
city
together.
itself, the
Yeah.
confluence of the two religions,
Hmm.
the city itself is a part. I think, and I think that's where the three films, Roja, Bombay, and Dilsa. I think the whole uh, uh, view of Maniratnam in those films is more like it's about two lovers and two people and their relationship. But in popular films, we have this notion like जब दो लोग two people are in love, they forget everything. They have this. They have their own struggles and their own fights against their own family members and all of that. But he takes that and he puts it on a larger canvas, saying कि नहीं,
Hmm.
there's a much more bigger world around you,
Yeah.
and whether you like it or not, it's going to affect you. You might be in your small shell and you might be contained in your own life, but there is a very different world outside, and it's going to come and impact you no matter what you do with it. Like in Bombay, it's very clear in Bombay where one of the characters is a Muslim character, one of the characters is a Hindu character. They are married, and they don't have any problems within themselves, and their families progress to having no problems within themselves. But the outside world is very different from what they believe in and what they do. And when those two worlds clash, uh, I think the outburst of Arvind Swami's character in the climax of the film, it's not just saying ki ye mat karo, wo mat karo, it's also coming to realization ki just because I believing something ki sab kuch theek hai, it's not that sab kuch theek hai. And I think that's the emotion that drives, and that's the emotion that's the most powerful form even today. And
And
contemporary.
yeah, and it's a very common this thing that you take a historical event and you have a personal story which is like at the forefront of it, and there is a parallel event, like you're telling the event story through this relationship. Like 1942, a love story is also an example. Titanic is an example of it. But
True.
yeah, and
Excellent.
again, there was this web series which I was very excited about called The Forgotten Army, which
Yeah,
was about the INA
INA.
being formed and how they led the attack and everything, and even that had a similar structure, that there was a romance, and through the romance they were trying to tell, but it miserably failed. Like it didn't come together, because neither did you do justice to the personal story,
Yeah.
and neither did you do justice to the historical event that
Larger event.
yeah.
I think it also it's amazing that all three films, Roja, Bombay, and Dilse, he did those films not looking as a looking back in retrospect as a history. He didn't make those films after 10 years after those events happened.
Hmm.
He made those films just a few years apart.
Hmm.
Like in 1990, you had the whole Kashmiri exodus happening, and in 1991 he makes a film on Kashmiri terrorism.
Yeah.
There is Bombay riots happen just a year and a half later he makes Bombay.
Hmm.
So I think it's I don't think he looks back. He wrote. He didn't, I don't think he wrote those films looking back on these events. But he also kind of said, "Ki this has not happened in the past. This has happened just a few years from now when you're
Hmm.
watching this film." I think that makes the films even more powerful to when you realize they have been made so in close proximity with the actual events that are kind of shown in the film.
Yeah. And then in the 2000s, you have a film like Yuva. Yuva is a film that was relevant then, it is still relevant now,
Yeah.
to the point that when Tandav, the Amazon web series, had to show a college politician, they had to use the track from Yuva, which came out like
Possibly
17,
the only bright spot in the in this.
came out 17 years ago. So, what do you think is his key? Like, how does he stay relevant? Like obviously he know the answer, but what do you think that he does that the films feel not dated, or not like someone older is like trying to talk to a younger generation?
I think observant. I think
Hmm.
as a someone who's studying films to be a filmmaker, I think observing things around you, and I'm not saying observing just by saying soaking information. Acha, aaj ye hua, oh, this happened
Hmm.
today. Oh, this is the new trending topic that is happening. That's the surface level. But actually
Right.
going into the psyche of the people who are involved in those events or in those trends or whatever it
Hmm.
is, I think understanding that, I think that's what makes those films contemporary to the very T, as we can
Hmm.
say. Like every character, every detail. It's not just those characters. हाँ वो game designer है, इसका ये मतलब नहीं. You just tell that he's a game designer. You see
Hmm.
his apartment. You see the things he uses. You
Hmm.
see the clothes he
It
wears. You
looks
see the
very
bag
lived
he
in.
carries.
Yeah.
Everything builds into it, and it's not even done in a throw at your face. Oh, dekho, he's this. Oh, see, he's wearing these kind of shoes. So he's like, it's just done so subtly and so realistically and nicely that you don't realize, but subconsciously you're analyzing every part of the frame.
Hmm.
And I
I
think
think it's
that's
just keep it simple, you know. I mean, so simple that you're able to relate
doing the
to it.
simplest things are kind of the most toughest things to do. So I
Toughest
think
things,
he's the master
like
of that.
I'll never forget this small sequence in Alai Pagade, the Tamil version of Satya, when
Hmm.
she gets ready to get to her college. Her mom makes upma, right? And she tells her mom that kill me, just kill me every day by just giving the same thing every day morning. That is a thing that probably Jay and myself have lived through our life.
Hmm.
as a being served that plate of upma in the morning. It's seemingly a very small thing, but these are this little magic tadka or masala that really makes you fall in love with the character and the movie. Uh, on the whole, his uncles are so relatable in the film, or even Prakash Raj's character in OK Kanvi. He's such a nice, lovable uncle next door sort of
Yeah.
character, or take any character for that matter. So that is the aspect that I feel makes his film till date very, very relatable. You can
I
see a
think
little bit
he
of hope.
subverts the whole stock character trope. Like
Hmm.
Bagal wala uncle, matlab he's nice and sweet, but
Hmm.
he adds a much more layer. He gives him a story. He gives him
Story.
a little. It's not overwhelming to the whole plot of the film.
And it's
He gives that
thematic.
little 1 minute scene
So it's very thematic.
where
That's
he
right.
gives his why does he be with his wife like that, and how does it happen? It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of the moments like the Yukma thing, or I'm remembering in Monoragam, there's this bit where she's making something and she's listening to a Beatles song. So there
Oh
are
yeah.
moments like these, and in like in working in advertising, I know that there are people who work on traditional brands who still swear by Mani Ratnam's filmography. That the moments that he has created, a whole section of advertising still works on creating only that kind of chemistry in amongst families. Like that's what we'll sell, and our product might do well. So what is this thing like? Is it just observant? Is it just observing things that are happening around him, or is he? I don't know. I don't understand if it can be just through observation that he's able to come up with moments which are relevant across age groups. So, what do you think? Is it just observation, or is it like is he applying himself into it as well?
I think
Mm,
it's like you have to observe first and then putting it on paper and managing to kind of
No, because
relate it.
see, when I say observe, so there's now, for example, Gully Boy. Okay, so now in Gully Boy, Javed Akhtar has to write a rap song, which is the Duri song. And if you hear that song, I'm not saying that he's done a bad job. Like it's one of the best songs of that album, but the vocabulary is still
mm.
very different
Distinct.
from what the actual rappers would write. So now that's something that he's coming from his life experiences and he's
Exactly.
adding on to a younger person's world. But when Mani Ratnam does it, a character he's writing at the age of 50, a 17-year-old would behave like a 17-year-old. So is
Yeah.
it just observation or how does he do it? Is my question. Like obviously we don't
Uh,
know the answer, but like I'm just
You
like
can
thinking
only
out loud.
guess.
Yeah, we can only guess.
See, my interpretation of that is that he, while yes, there's a larger theme about script, screenplay, hai, cinema, hai, not even film, cinema level discussions. But at the end of it, I think he really breaks it down to how is this guy or this girl going to mouth this dialogue?
Hmm.
How is it that you and I are going to? I mean, if I'm riding on a bike with you. Um, he really likes that, right? You've seen that in Yuva, you've seen that in Maharagam, you've seen that in Alai Payude, etc.
Yeah.
How is it like? So, for instance, a whole generation of women just fell for Madhavan riding that bike when the whole scene comes up in Alai Payude. There's this whole thing pops up and he's
Hmm.
listening to Henry Tunnagai. It's
Hmm.
because there's also something very naturally aspirational about it, right? Hey,
Hmm.
here is a guy who's not hero-like. He's somebody who will find at every nook and corner of Chennai, yet he's so likable and lovable, right?
Hmm.
That is a quality. Same with Dulquer Salman, whatever, 2017 years was it after Alai Payude?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
still felt that when he's riding that bike or whatever song that was, he's like, oh, this guy's so cute.
Hmm.
This guy's so, I mean, I would want to date him. I would want to go out with him. So I think he breaks it down each, for me, I feel that he breaks down each dialogue to a level where it sounds very uh,
Hmm.
natural. I mean, and these are things that are timeless, right? I mean,
Hmm.
chal main chai pi ke aata hu is the way people are going to say chai pi ke aata hu 10 years down the line. And you're not
Hmm.
going to say it in a different manner. So he's not too dramatical about these things. It's how you and I are going to talk about it.
Yeah, and also
So
about aspirations. So just this thing came into my mind that a lot of times we have to write characters like the female character, which became
mhm,
like a parody trope in Tamil cinema. This was a loser punda that the crazy psychotic girl. And
Yeah.
that's like the girl is always happy. She's in
Bubbly.
Gajni. There's that thing now that there's this blind man and she helps him cross the road, and
Oh God.
she describes everything that's happening around him. And now you see Chinna Chinna Aase in Roja, where it's the same thing. It's the exactly the same trope that you're introducing the heroine who's a free-spirited girl who has like dreams and
Larger
hopes
than
of
life dreams.
larger than life. She is like playing pranks with the village people. She's friendly with the house guys. Everything. It's the exact
Correct.
same thing. But Chinna Chinna Aase works, and people still aspire to be that. But the other scenes like the one in Ghazni, they feel cringe. So I think yeah, the aspiration bit rings really true in these things.
I think it's Srini's line, isn't it? He breaks down each and every word the character is going to say, and like because you brought up the female characters and Maniratnam
Mm-hmm.
films, he I probably would say he's one of the very few directors who actually really spends time in writing them and how they talk to each other. Say like in Monaragam when they're going up and down the stairs and
Yeah,
Mohan touches her, she's and a complete. I feel like if you touch me, I feel like leeches are going all over my body.
yeah.
And that's a line in retrospect in 1985. No female lead in a film would say that to the male character, and it's not uh, and it's not dwelt on. Unlike other film, it would have dwelt on how did
They
you
would
say
have
Sort of
built
that,
that
how
like
to do that,
emotion.
and
They would have
and
built that emotion.
and when he treats the Mohan character, he just says nothing. He leaves her hand and he just walks away.
yeah.
And it's not dwelt upon. It's not showcased on and on. It just happens like a very commonplace thing in
Hmm.
the in a what do you say mismatched couple's life,
Yeah.
and it has continued through his film. You take any film,
And it's
Talapati,
not just
any film.
characters who are strong for the sake of it, because in the last 5 years we've had strong women like strong-headed characters who don't actually contribute anything to the plot. Like they're just strong, क्योंकि दिखाना है.
दिखाना है.
But yeah, but in Mani Ratnam films, like most of his films, they have agency as well. They lead to something important in the plot. It's their character that kind of like in this one, they'll say the entire thing is led by Manisha Koirala.
And
Shadi
her mission. Yeah,
yeah,
it's all
her
around her.
mission. Yeah, SRK is just
Yeah,
going
the film
after
is
the
all
plot.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah. True, true.
yeah.
Oof,
So that was
what a film.
pretty
Yeah.
interesting. Yashasvi Sharma is saying callback for jumping off train in climax in Alai Payudu. Yes.
Yes.
Mani Ratnam and trains is also in an interesting
That's a
thing.
different stream altogether if
Yeah.
someone can do it.
Mani Ratnam and trains, Mani Ratnam and rains.
If you want to
Rains
go
and
a little bit in the
Maniratnam.
80s, Maniratnam and buses also.
Yeah.
No, for that matter, much later as well. Look at Alaipavide, look at Kannathil Muttapet.
Oh,
Kannathil
yeah.
Muttapettal had some
Yes.
fabulous
Yes, actually.
scenes mounted inside the bus. I mean, you
Bus,
will see
yeah.
when the kid
Mani
runs
Ratnam and
away.
Buses, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful. Yuva had a couple of great
Yeah.
scenes inside the bus. And if I can, Mauna Ragam, the way they hold the Mohan meets, sorry, Karthik meets her when his bike crosses his bike. And so, yeah, so some beautiful scenes.
I
Yeah,
also think
Maniratnam on the buses.
Maniratnam has explored locations. Like,
Yeah.
he has explored
And that's
Chennai.
again a whole stream.
That's another whole stream as
Yeah.
well. Like Delhi, you take Bombay,
Yeah.
take
Like for
Kashmir.
the longest time, people kept saying that here is one director who's not shot any song abroad,
Yeah.
right? And yet managed to,
Create some
do
of the
what
best
Yash
videos.
Chopra has achieved. Like, he never went to Switzerland to shoot a song.
Hmm.
Barsore has been shot so beautifully, and and
In Run of
written so
Kutch.
beautifully. In Run of Kutch, or for me, one of the most blasphemous visualizations. I mean, something that I had never even imagined that I would see in a Maniratnam film, or I had a completely different picturization. Was Adiye from Kadal. I
Yeah.
had not imagined Adiye to have been shot that way.
The song
I was
itself
in
was shocking in a
disbelief.
Yeah.
way. In a
Yeah,
very good
yeah.
way, the song was shocking.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
blues
it's
and
about
jazz.
there's this old blues and jazz in it. I mean, which I was like all the while in the theater. I was telling my wife, I was like, wow. I mean, are we really seeing this? So yeah, so he is. Sometimes he surprises you that way. Yeah.
And
Or
yeah,
for
on
that
yeah, on
matter,
Yeah, on the topic of Adiye, there's this interview of Sid Sriram with Bharadwaj Rangan where he explains his how he got selected for that song. And anyone who's watching this stream after the stream, obviously, please go and check that interview out because it's one of the best explanations and like a music interview that I've seen. So I definitely recommend that. And
And
obviously, watch the song as well. It's one of the
And
best.
since you mentioned Maniratnam and rains, and we
Hmm.
spoke of Barsore,
Yeah.
this other brilliant Maniratnam rain song, which has a male lead,
Hmm.
is a song from Ravanan.
Yes.
My God, what a visceral, beautiful way to express angst and
Hmm.
anger, and of course, beautifully written by Gulzar Saab as well, and
Hmm.
that helps. But the way this one maybe Vikram in the Tamil version, or
Hmm.
I don't remember. Thokte Killi was the Hindi
No,
song. I
no,
don't
Yes.
remember
yeah,
the.
no,
I
Nabdekili,
don't
yeah.
remember. But what a beautiful song. I mean, who would have thought that a male lead
Hmm.
will get to perform in a rain song in a
Hmm.
Maniratnam film? There again, that was fabulous.
Also, yeah, now that we're on the subject of Ravan, I learned a very interesting thing. So Abhishek Bachchan had done an interview with Anupama Chopra where he was explaining about Ravan and things. So apparently,
Mhm.
like since it's based on Ravan, they had decided that he will have 10 heads, and each of the heads
Okay.
would be a separate personality. Like one of the heads is a teacher, one of the heads is a philosopher, one of the heads is like a psychotic person, and through his performance they were supposed to all come together through VFX and everything. But eventually,
Right.
on the edit, they took a call that it won't be there. And Abhishek Bachchan basically explained that it basically made his performance kind of look weird because he
Mhm.
had performed keeping this in mind, which again, as an idea, sounds pretty interesting. I think probably because of length and everything, they would have had to add it on. But just yeah, as I was saying, the literal and the metaphorical symbol in mythology. Yeah, speaking of mythology, there's who would have thought Mani Ratnam is a guy who has adapted mythology so many times.
Yeah.
There's obviously
Okay.
Ranapati. There's
Talapati.
yeah, Roja. Roja is also mythology. It's Satyavan Savitri in
Satyavan Savitri.
Kashmir. There's obviously this one, Ravan. So, and again, the new one. New one is not mythology; it's historical. But yeah,
There are a couple more. I think we're
yeah,
missing. Yeah, but anyway,
yeah. But anyway,
as a well.
yeah, yeah. Metro scene and okay, yeah. I have traveled all my life in Mumbai local trains. Not once have I seen them lit by PC Sriram in Chalchitra. Yeah. Only
Oh
Manisha
boy.
can find
Oh boy.
beauty in local trains. Yes.
Yes.
Oh yes, PC lives in his magic.
Yeah.
That's true. Or for that matter, the train scenes in Alepai, where
Yeah.
Yeah.
he comes and casually flirts with her, chats with her.
Mm.
And such a beautiful way of even the conversation. Now that's what I'm saying. I mean, that is how a
Mm.
love-struck teenager would speak. She says, "Will you jump from the train?" So he's like, "No, I would not. Panamata." So all that was like a whiff of fresh air. Maybe even now it looks great. Yeah, because that's how a young college-going guy would maybe
Yeah.
So the dialogue is
react.
realistic, but it's not
Very,
boring.
very.
It's still
Yeah.
dramatic.
Or it's not cheesy, right?
Exactly. It's still dramatic. It retains the drama. It evokes the emotions you want to create. But it's still something you would hear or you would yourself would say at some point in your life. And I think
Mm.
that's the brilliant part about it.
Yeah.
Hey, and also one more thing. I'm sorry. We spoke about Maniratnam and train, Maniratnam and bus, Maniratnam
Mm.
and trains.
Mm.
I think there is one facet of Maniratnam and mirrors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, in all his films, and
Mm.
whether it's again, since we're talking about Alaipayude or Satya, that scene where she's trying to put her sindoor and she misses that, or Okay Kanmani,
Mm.
where they look at each other through a crack, or Dil Se. Dil
Mm.
Se doesn't have a mirror scene, but it has that beautiful looking at you from the other side of the glass.
Mm.
Roja
Uh,
has mirror scene.
oh, Roja
Even
has some
yeah,
beautiful
even
scenes.
Ravan has that shot in the beginning where
Oh
the
yes, oh yes.
Jatayu thing is seen through the
Oh,
water.
Water.
Yeah, and
It's
then
not a
oh
mirror,
that
but a
yes.
reflection.
yeah,
Reflection,
a
but a
reflection.
reflection.
Yeah.
True, true. And so that is also something that you can pick from
Mm.
most of his films. I think even Kannathal Muttamital had a couple of scenes, and when Amudha is at home and she's getting ready for school and all that. Yeah, so
Yeah, we spoke about trains. We didn't speak about Chaya Chaya. That is
Of course. Oh
deep,
yeah,
deep,
Blasphemous.
that's famous.
blasphemous. Yeah. Yeah,
Chat's
and
going
so
to
yeah,
go
I was
wild.
also thinking about item numbers. Like when usually in any other film, the item numbers would just be like ऐसे ही आके चले जाता है. But
Speed breakers.
yeah, but in a Maniratnam
Hamma
film,
hamma.
when it's written by Gulzar, that too, Chaya Chaya has a whole Sufi thing going on in the background.
Goes beyond your
Yeah,
average item number.
It's beyond.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Also,
you still strip the song of all its, I mean, the dancing on the train and all that. If you were
hmm,
just to see what Gulzar Saab has written,
yeah,
I am like, oh my God.
and and it's such a great way to foreshadow the character's eventual fate. Like we have been just introduced and we have this inkling ki, okay ye romantic kuch hone wala hai. And in the entire song itself he tells us the lengths that this guy is going to go for his love. So that's
Right.
like a very Sufi kind of thing. And yeah, you speaking about Ravan, the Thok De Kili song, it has a very strong left मतलब जो communist ideology है पूरा है गाने के
Hmm.
अंदर. The entire
Yeah,
song is filled with that symbolism, and I
true,
don't
true.
know any other mainstream film which has been made on the Naxal issue without being very gritty or realistic. Like it's still in the fantasy kind of zone, but at the same time it also talks about that issue as well, which I don't know a lot of people have done.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed, agreed.
Many Ratnam and historical monuments is also a thing.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
shot a lot of songs at historical
Yes.
monuments.
It's like
Talking of films
Maniratnam
and
and Bombay
communism,
can be a whole thing. Just
Yeah.
Bombay. He has
Yeah,
shot three films in Bombay.
he's lived here, right? So he has a
yeah,
very
Jamnalal
interesting
Bajaj
relationship. Yeah.
is an MBA from
Mm.
Jamnalal Bajaj, I guess. From
Jamnavan. So there's Naigan, there is
Bombay. Okay,
Bombay,
Kanman.
there is
Okay,
Okay
Kanmani.
Kanmani. Yeah, three films. And obviously Guru also. Guru is also
Guru.
an
Yes.
Bombay.
Four.
Four films and four differently,
Very, very different
very
films.
different views of the city.
Four different parts of Bombay, if you want to look at
Yeah,
it that way.
yeah, parts also. Where one
But
of them
still,
is a
to me,
period setting, entirely period, this thing where there were trams and everything in Guru.
Yes.
uh, apparently those scenes were shot in Chennai, I guess.
They made set.
Recreated.
Even
They
the film
recreated
Bombay
that
was
set.
shot in Chennai.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Tota Tarini was it?
Yeah.
Tota
If I'm
Tharini.
not
The
wrong,
art
Tota
director.
Tarini was
Yes.
the brilliant, the genius art director.
Yeah. And, yeah, I think like what is Kabir saying? Kabir is saying the beauty of Mani Ratnam is that he chooses actors for stories that people think they won't fit in. Yeah. Sometimes casting against the type is his thing, but
Right.
he chooses actors who might not fit in conventionally in those roles.
I'll say either the Madhavan as a
Hmm.
Raffain and a
Right,
Gunda.
right, right.
It's a lot of people actually don't like that performance for the sheer fact that how can Madhavan do something
How
like
can
that? How can
Hmm.
you show him as a rough and tough like a Gunda kind of a character? Because
Hmm, hmm.
either they just came after he was still basking in the glory of Alay Payade, still that
Hmm, hmm.
chocolate boy image, and he throws him into this rough character, and
Right, right.
it's still one of the great performance by Madhavan, in
Hmm.
my opinion.
Yeah, I think we have the dogs are also indicating that we've come to the end. So yeah, anything that you guys would like to talk about that I have missed, or anything that
what
you
should we pick something from the comments and
I
discuss
think
Yes,
we've
something?
reply,
pretty
I don't
much
know.
reply
covered,
to
but yeah,
publish
आप
not
लोग
to.
भी देख लो. Yeah, meanwhile, guys, please like the stream if you like
Yes, that's
one of the stream. Even if you don't like it, please like it. It'll help us.
Yeah, please do.
just a
Since
Yeah,
you're here.
just a click or a tap away.
yeah, and it's free also. It's completely
Yeah,
free.
Yeah, I do see a lot of fans of Chakachavanda Valu in the
Yeah,
live stream. So, yeah,
yeah,
I,
that's the
yeah, but
beauty of the internet. That if Maniratnam had started his career now, every film of his would have like a polarizing discussion. Ki some people would like it, some people would not like it. Or yeah,
Uh, Preeti Mehta says that talk about Tara's character in OK Country. Jay, you want to take that since you
Hmm.
have a Tara in your life as well. So, your
It's
sister.
my sister.
Yes.
My
Yeah.
sister's name is Tara.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think again, when we were talking about the whole female leads, how he writes them, and the fact that he just doesn't empower them just for naam ke vaste or
Hmm.
Kali just it's like a not a token or a brownie point. Oh, see, I have a woman, empowered woman in my film.
Right, right, right.
Not just for that sake. Like she actually influences the whole film. Like she is the one who takes the decisions. She is the one who pushes the plot around, and all of the dramatic sequences or the plot turns or
Hmm.
plot points that happen actually have her in the center of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And also, I really don't agree with how I don't really like understand the whole ending of it. Like shadi kar lo, ho gaya, all of
Hmm.
that. But I would still go for that whole approach how he did for her. Still she takes her own decisions and she's still like independent on her own. And I think uh, that's a really interesting way he has written that character. And
Hmm.
personal opinion, but I don't think it translated well in
Hmm.
the Hindi version because
Hmm.
again, it's not just about writing a character; it's about
Hmm.
how you direct them, how the actor approaches it, how
Hmm.
they imbibe it, and how they perform it on camera. I think,
Also, Mani said this, right? He himself clarified the fact that, see, for people staying in Chennai,
Hmm.
uh, the living concept is more relatable in somebody doing it in Bombay is still acceptable,
Yeah.
whereas it's I don't okay the word aspirational would not be the right word here, but it's more acceptable there. So you're not judging the characters per se when
Hmm.
you see that okay they're in Bombay doing that. That's
Hmm.
one of the reasons why it didn't work. Also, one of the reasons why it didn't
Hmm.
work in Hindi is because of the fact that it's not something.
it's
It doesn't
already
have
a
that.
saturated idea. I
It's
feel.
already a
Yeah.
saturated idea.
Yeah.
Like people यहाँ पे हाँ चलता है ठीक है. I know my neighbors. I know इसको देखा है मैंने या उसको
Hmm.
देखा है मैंने जो चलता है ठीक है. Whereas it was way back I think okay company was
50.
2016,
50.
15.
Yeah.
Yeah, so somebody
For
a
Chennai, it
college
was
going
still
for
a
Chennai, it would have still been a pretty amazing thing
oh
to
wow.
see, or a scandalous thing to watch out. So I guess that worked in
I
the
think
film
Okay
sphere.
Janu could have worked if it was, set in a North Indian city like the Ayushmann Khurrana belt of films. If it was a film like that, probably it might
Sure.
have worked in Hindi because then it, becomes like a whole, which was again what Luka Chupi was with Kartik Aaryan. That was the entire thing. There's a couple in an Indian small
True.
town which is attempting a
True.
live-in kind of a
Even
situation. So I think, yeah, and again, as we were saying that Bombay even in the film Bombay, it's the peak cosmopolitan this thing. If something is acceptable here, then it would be acceptable everywhere else. Which is why
Right.
he
So true.
attempted saying that okay, if the two religions can come together in this city, they can come together in India as well.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. The setting also matters, I guess.
and that's the thing,
Yeah.
when we started the whole that
Hmm.
in Anjali, like just the way the whole apartment and the residential
Hmm.
complex is a character.
Yeah.
Every Maniratnam
Mhm.
film, the backdrop and the city itself is a character. You can take any film,
Yeah, which is also
That's
a
true.
drawback in Cheka Chivantavanam that there are so many settings that there's no time to establish
establish one.
anything. Neither do we know about Prakash Raj's
I would have liked it to be like
empire.
a Knives Out kind of a thriller set in that one big palatial house, something like that. I don't know. Might have been crazy. I don't know. I would have loved to see something like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, the film shifts
Hey,
narratives and
somebody
locations.
somebody in the stream commented about Hayati.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't remember the name. That's such a fabulous number.
Yeah.
Such a fabulous number. I love that track. I
yeah,
love that track. Of course, Bhumi Bhumi is individually as a song, it's nice, but Hayati was just fire.
yeah,
Pure fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. I think we've
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of comments on the stream as well.
I think we've covered pretty much everyone. Yeah, Prakash
Yes.
Raj we discussed and
Have we covered pretty much of it, or just the tip of the iceberg of the genius that is Maniratnam?
yeah
I
we've
don't know.
yeah we've we've wished him on his birthday.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Oh yes.
yeah, and we've also discussed unpopular opinions about
Yes.
Ilyaraja. See, the thing is, I would have been more receptive of him, but there's this video clip of like I don't know some event after the Oscars where A.R. Rahman was being felicitated and Ilayaraja is also present at the event and he just makes very snide remarks at Rahman winning an Oscar. So I was like, man, why did you have to do that? You are a giant in your own space, so it just didn't feel right. So yeah, but yeah, that's my only bias with him.
Love the art, not the artist.
Yeah. Either you die a hero or you become the thief.
The villain. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true in the other sense.
Kumar is saying, do you think the war sequences were well done in Sundari Kannaluru Suri? Yes, definitely. The
Yeah.
BGM were so heavily orchestrated, almost like a symphony, but the fighting looked very light for me. Light for me. Interesting. I like the whole Kurosawa, like the
Kurosawa vibe.
samurai
Yeah. Right.
vibe that it had. And again, it was also rooted in like Indian traditions and
Tradition.
like this whole a warrior away from his this thing. So that was pretty nice. It was quite interesting, and that's exactly what I was referring to the Ashoka thing. That the war sequences in Ashoka have a very Kurosawa
Like that
type of feel.
hazy feel that's there in
Yeah,
the Sundari song.
yeah, and it's a
Yeah,
very like you know when to cut to a wide, you know when to go close. Whenever it's the two of them, they're very close. But when it's like longing and separation and the
It's
whole fight is
vibes.
going on, it's all wide. That's pretty interesting. Probably it could have felt like departure from the kind of tone the film is, but it was pretty interesting. Like if you have a film like set in a slum and then the leads go to Switzerland to sing a song, like it's the same.
That's
Yeah.
subversion.
हाँ थोड़ा
Right,
थोड़ा
right.
आपको देना पड़ेगा ground liberty. Yeah.
yeah, but then they sing Rakama Kayita things too,
Yeah.
which is such a
Hmm.
such a song. I might listen to that immediately after this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it from my end. If you guys want to add anything, please go ahead and we'll wrap the stream, I guess now.
Watch the older Maniratnam films as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
the ones we discussed, the ones we did not discuss. Watch all of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot to admire and appreciate, and if you want to learn, there's a lot to learn as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know most
And
of them don't have great prints or subtitles and all, but yeah,
right,
whatever is available, you should watch.
Yeah.
yeah, they still largely stand the test of time. Yeah, and I just hope Mani sir continues to regale us with films for a long time to come.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, he's a big part of my life, my childhood, my life later. So I just hope. I mean, there are a few people whom you wish they never age, right?
Hmm.
You don't want Tom Hanks to get old,
Yeah.
right? And there are many such people. Right? Tom Hanks is just one of them. You just want them to continue to. I mean, I wouldn't want Kamal Hassan to age, but yeah, so similar.
Great. I think
Yes.
we have come to the end of this conversation. Thank you so much. This was really fun.
Thank you for
And
having
Thank
us.
you, Gideon.
I
Thank
got to
you for
discuss
having us.
I got to discuss Mani Ratnam with
Thank
two
you.
people with whom I've had great discussions on this. So this felt like a nice reunion. So
I
yeah,
know. I
thank you.
loved every minute of it. Thank you. And thank you, all of you guys who stuck with us
Yeah.
and
Yep.
liked this stream. Thank you. So I'm sure we'll be back pretty soon discussing some other
Some.
thing about cinema.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or we'll regroup next year on my research birthday. Maybe the film will be out. I don't think it will be out. Like it seems like a theater experience, but yeah, whenever
Whenever
it
it
Whenever,
happens,
happens.
let's hope it happens soon. So yeah,
Yes.
thank you everyone who joined, and
thank you.
yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
for liking
Bye,
and yeah,
guys. Stay safe.
yeah, yeah. I'll just end the stream.